Yo, Trump dead just got shot. By dead, I mean dead ass. Trump really just got shot. This is like hours before I recorded this podcast. It's just crazy. But listen, we're back at the podcast. I was away because Rachel's been pregnant this entire time, practically the whole time I've done the podcast, and it's been killing us not to tell you all. And that's not why I walked away. I walked away from the podcast because it was like Rachel's wanted to announce, and we were here and there, and it's just a lot of stressors in life. But I thought I'd come back with an advice column podcast. So if your question was in the advice column, it may get answered right now. I'm doing this live. Like these, I haven't seen these yet. So they're going to get answered right now. I wanted to do relationship advice. Like I wanted to do like, should I get back with my ex and shit like that? But I got a lot of how to raise a baby questions. So I'll answer those too. All right. So how do you keep her entertained? I'm a new mom, 21, and struggle with my baby. So any stage of life, figure out what your baby likes to do. And I mean that as like when Laguna was like 3 months old, she chilled in the snuggle me and then she would play on her kick pad. So like identify those first. And if feeding's one of them, she likes to eat, right? So breastfeed or bottle feed at that time. She likes to be in the bath, whatever it is. Try to reserve the bath for like nighttime routines. So maybe don't load that one up as quick, but essentially identify all those stations. Once you identify those, just keep them on a repeating loop. And I've made videos about this before, but like now Laguna's 9 months old. She likes to crawl around on the floor. She likes to eat real human food. She likes to breastfeed. She likes to play interactively with us. So each of those may grant us 10 minutes or 15 minutes of time, 30 minutes on like the eating ones, right? So that's awesome. So that's just on a loop until she naps. And then once she naps, wake up, repeat. I know that sounds like monotonous and like, oh my God, I have to do that all day. But yeah, that is what you signed up for when you had a kid, sis. That is, I hope that helps, truly. All right, keeping a marriage. Okay, perfect. These are the type of questions I wanted to do. Keeping a marriage sexy after having a baby, your relationship seems to be thriving. Me and Rachel try. I'll say that me being 25 years old and she's pregnant again within 9 months postpartum, right? She got pregnant again 6 months postpartum. So obviously we were being careful and we still got pregnant. But I will say that I feel like I drive a lot of it because Rachel hasn't even been able to recover from like the first pregnancy and birth. Like they say it takes 2 years to fully be postpartum or fully get through postpartum, I guess I should say. And I don't mean just postpartum depression. I mean to like get back to normal body feeling, right? And I drive a lot of that, but from like a place of care. I think if you say like, how do you keep it sexy? Like I would say someone has to be the driver, which if it's both of you, that's awesome. Like shout out. I think in this relationship it's me, but if you don't come from a place of like love and respect, or like if I try not to understand what Rachel's going through, whether it be like breastfeeding and her not feeling like her breasts are hers, or like maybe she's tired and she's been extra tired because she's pregnant. Like if I don't come from a place of understanding, it's really not going to turn anyone on. But I think to answer your question, like one liner, we've been able to have a successful, thriving relationship in a libido way, probably because I'm as close to the default parent as you can get. And what I mean by that is it's so assumed that the woman is going to be primary parent, and like women bear such of the load when it's having a child. I think by me stepping up and doing so much of the work as much as I can at this point, I've completely sleep coached. I don't like to call it trained, but I've sleep coached Laguna. Like me doing that for Rachel in some sense has taken off such a load from her stress and her hormonal like cortisol levels that it's probably freed up some space for her to like me. Does that make sense? I hope that answers your question. How to be consistent with practicing milestones when we're both so exhausted. So I guess what that means is like if your baby is just starting to eat, like how do you consistently feed them when they're just starting to chew, or how do you consistently get them to like, you know, point at the right shape if they're pointing at the right shape? I would just say you got to be on schedule, but live your life if you can change your mindset. This will help you so much in life, to a more often than not mindset, especially when you have a kid, because I feel bad for a lot of people that are holding themselves to like this high standard that like, oh my God, 7 days a week I should be like Laguna. They say she should be eating 3 times a day. We don't achieve that every day. They literally say 3 times a day with 2 snacks and still breastfeeding. Bruh, that's my whole fucking day. Like If I did that all day to prep her, feed her, clean her 3 times a day, give her 2 healthy snacks, which I guess is the same process, and breastfeed, that's my whole fucking day. And that's for sure Rachel's whole fucking day because she's the one breastfeeding, right? And so you got to transition to a more often than not mindset. I got to say, if I can achieve that 4 days a week, if you break it down weekly, awesome. If I can achieve that 15 days out of the month, I guess that breaks even. 16 days out of the month, awesome. If I can feed her 2 times a day for sure with 1 snack, that's more often than not, right? You're closer to the finish line. And if you can transition to that mindset and try to achieve things in your life with a more often than not mindset, I think you'll look back and be a lot happier. Like I've done, you'll feel more accomplished. Advice about being overwhelmed by nap math and schedules and getting it right. Oh, fuck that. When your baby's tired, put her down. And all of it kind of works out. So like Laguna, she sleeps like every 2 to 2.5 to 3 hours. I used to be all about this wake window shit. And early on, to be about wake windows is beneficial to you, who's like sleep deprived at night and you got to wake them up so they eat because they got to gain weight. Once your baby gets past a certain point, just fucking wear their ass out. And when they're worn out, put their ass down. And then it all kind of works out anyway. Every night, me and Rachel face this conundrum. Like, we're here tonight. It's 5:14. Her bedtime's not till 7, but she woke up at 3. What the fuck are we going to do? Because if we wait 2 hours and put her down at 5, she's going to sleep till 6, and then she's going to wake up, not be tired at 7. No. So we just keep her ass up. We're like, you're staying up for 4 hours. We feed her. We're miserable for a little bit. It works out. But if you're overwhelmed about nap schedule, just look nap schedule in the face and say, like, take your power back. Fuck nap schedule then. 5 months postpartum, and how do you keep the romance alive feeling disconnected? So this is from the woman this time. And I don't know how involved your partner is. Like, I think when you're 5 months postpartum, don't put any pressure on yourself. Like I said, it could take 2 years. But I think if they're not, like, by me being so involved, it's probably expedited the rate at which Rachel could work through some emotions and stuff, or like how she feels, or allowed her to feel like, oh my God, I want that man. That man's taking care of my baby. I want him. Like, I don't know that men are giving that feeling to women if they're just doing nothing, you know? So my biggest piece of advice, if you're feeling disconnected, is don't look. Okay, you said you're the one feeling disconnected. Don't try to look in the area of sex to feel reconnected. Are they not pulling their weight around the house? Are they not bearing their load of childcare? Are they not, being sweet to you all day and they're stressed out all the time? Like, all of those things can make you feel not horny for them, and it has nothing to do with sex. And also be easy on yourself. 5 months postpartum, like, you just got through this. How do you prioritize yourself while taking care of your girlfriend and kid? Do you experience burnout? Yes, I don't prioritize myself. I'm starting to notice more and more that the way that I care for Laguna and Rachel is like starting to really affect my mental health. I don't want to get in like some crazy ass. Like, when I found out Rachel was pregnant again with the second baby, I took a dark turn, because I'm like, I just don't know. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Because I already, like, if I have 100% love, I love Laguna 50% and I love Rachel. This is not a real thing. I'm just saying, like, say I had 100% love. I pour half of it into Rachel and I pour half of it into Laguna as much as I can. Add another baby, 33, 33, 33. But notice I'm never really saying like none of it's really coming back to me. Like, I wanted to run a marathon and I have one booked at the end of this month in July. And I was just telling Rachel today, I think I can't go because I don't know if I have the money, because my money's going to family man responsibilities and I'm the sole provider in the house, and it's hard, dude. I hate to get emotional, but trying to answer that question, I'm like, I don't really prioritize myself. My baby daddy is too prideful to listen to your podcast on topics that he desperately needs insight on. Yeah, I think that men and women, but mostly men, they experience this internal battle of ego, right? And ego is a relationship killer. My old boss used to say ego is a relationship killer. And he was so right, because if you can't bring yourself down and like realize what your own self-image of yourself is doing to your own life, man, you got to like separate. Your boyfriend or baby daddy or whoever needs to like balloon up, parachute out, become omnipresent and look at themselves and realize like, wait, in order to make this girl happy, she wants me to get better at these tasks. I can get better by potentially listening to this man's podcast, and it's not hurting me at all to do any of that. It's actually making everything better. But In a man's brain, most of the time, it's like, what the fuck? You want me to listen to some dude because you don't like me enough? Like, go be with him. It sucks because it's like, they got to understand that. Yeah. I would say just instead of urging him to listen to the podcast or urging him to get better in areas, challenge him to read a book about emotional intelligence. And that may lead to him saying, damn, now I'm open to listening to this dude's podcast. Like, that would, like, I didn't realize I had to grow in those areas. How do you manage your time, even though I love my newborn, it's working her. I have no time to myself. Sister, I know. I just tell myself we're getting through the trenches. Muhammad Ali has a quote. I hated every single day of training, but I always told myself, work hard now and live the rest of my life as a champion. I don't hate my daughter. I don't hate being with her. I don't hate all the energy I pour into Rachel and my daughter. And I hate none of it, right? But let's call it training for a second. And I just remind myself, if I work hard now, if I train now, if I pour into my family now, I can live the rest of my life as a champion. Oftentimes I look in the future and I see this image of Laguna and my son holding me like, Dad, we love you. Thank you for giving. Like, I'm sure you know someone that has parents, or you look at your own parent and think, man, you sacrificed yourself. Like, you gave me everything. I think there's no better position in the world to be the person that gave everything for someone else. And I hope I do that for my kids. But it's hard to find you time in that. I know we're selfish creatures, and I want you time too. I just tell myself to. It sucks because like right now I feel like I'm getting me time by recording this podcast. But like I record this podcast to like build my brand so that I could pay for food so my daughter can eat. It's like you time would actually probably be me like laying at the sky relaxing for once, but it's hard to find time to do that. It's tough, I know. Just get through this newborn phase, get your child. Remember, once they get into school, these 18 years go fast. I hear I've never been through it, but just know that the you time is coming. Advice on how to get your baby to sit up, please. I think I made a video about this before, but you can put their legs, if you're watching the video version, you can put their legs like out like this and then put their hands in front of them, and they can like put weight on their hands. Do that 3 times a day, every day for a few weeks, and they'll get it. Men who feel unwanted due to postpartum. I suffer from this. I'm like a serial, do you still love me fucking partner. Like, I'm sure I look confident on social media sometimes, but Rachel is probably so annoyed with how often I'm like, do you love me? Do you hate me? Because I'm so insecure sometimes. That's really what it is. I'm just going to call it how it is. I'm insecure as fuck at times. And I have breaks where I'm like, I need to feel love. And she tries to explain to me like, bro, I'm just like, sorry, I didn't mean to be not loving to you. I'm just going through a lot. And now Rachel's postpartum, breastfeeding, and pregnant. And yeah, I mean, I just got to tell your man to find security in himself, get him a hobby. What does he like to do? Feel good about himself. For me, I'm like trying to grow my brand, and that makes me feel better about myself. I want to get in the gym more. That would make me feel better about myself. I don't, but I want to more. And just allow him to hype himself up. I'll say one thing that Rachel allows me to do is, sometimes after a really accomplished moment, like I might record this podcast and walk out there and be like, damn, I did a good podcast. Like, I'll say that. She doesn't tear me down like, oh my God, you're so narcissistic or anything. She doesn't tear me down. She's like, good, babe. And so if they have moments, even if your man has a moment like that, I mean, I don't think we should be playing video games as fathers, but if he fucking plays a video game and says it was a good night on the video game, let him gloat is what I'm saying. And just remind him you're postpartum in a educational way. Don't shame him. Don't be like, oh my God, you don't understand. Like he doesn't understand. That's the point. So try not to shame him. Do your best and just try to remind him like, it's not you. I got to work through some things and I need you to be there to support me. And support right now doesn't look like physical connection. Support looks like hearing me out or helping with the baby or whatever. Managing grief in a relationship where the other person doesn't understand but is sympathetic. I lost my brother. My brother passed away in 2015. He was my older brother. He was 18 when he passed away and I was 16. So huge grief moment. It's changed my entire life. Laguna is named after the beach my brother passed away at. Like, this is obviously a massive life change for me. It's altered the course of my life in every way. Rachel has never experienced grief quite that close to home. I won't invalidate the grief she has experienced through grandparents, but she's never really experienced that grief close to home. And I'll say that she's supportive. I think that you literally said that. Managing. Oh, okay. They put more. Managing grief in a relationship where the other person doesn't understand but is sympathetic. Like the person loves me and wants me to be better but doesn't get it. Can you help? I feel like I don't know how to manage my grief and be present for my man some days. Yeah, I mean, is he creating space for you is the question. Like when I tell Rachel, like, hey, like I just need a moment, like this is heavy on my heart today. She remember this, they're in a tough spot too. I feel like this is my journal. I feel like this is the greatest podcast ever. We're just like talking. I wish all of you were here and we could just talk in a big circle together. But remember this, that the second worst position to be in than the person grieving is the person closest to the person grieving. It might even be like, I feel so bad for my friends the year that my brother passed away. My girlfriend at the time, I was 16. My little high school girlfriend who I thought I loved more than anything. Shout out to her because I broke up with her immediately. I flipped my whole life upside down. Like I put that girl through hell, but I had just lost my brother. Remember that they're going through the second worst position by being with you. And so ask yourself, do they create space? And if they don't create space, you can't require that person to be exactly what you need. They're never going to fulfill what you need because you're obviously grieving. And so for me, it's helpful when I tell Rachel, like, yo, I'm just having a day. And she's positive. Like, that's what I tell her. I'm like, yo, if you could just be as positive as possible, even if I'm like dragging you down, just try to keep it upbeat. And Rachel does her best to do that. And I can't ask for anything more. When I come back down to earth and I come back down to center, a day later, hours later, I'm like, yo, thank God you were like that and not like taking it personal. So yeah, just tell your partner what you need them to be while you're on earth, right? And then once you start to grieve and get up there into outer space, because we all know how that feels, hopefully they can play the part that you needed them to play. All right. Grandparents trying to overstep. I have a podcast about this, but you need to set up a feedback culture in your relationships and set up a boundary culture in your relationships. And like what that looks like is like, even this weekend, my aunt met my daughter for the first time and she said something or someone said something. And I was like, don't say that. Recently, there was a little kid that kissed Laguna's hand and I was like, don't kiss her. And I told the parent, like, yo, no offense. I don't want you need to set that up because if there's grandparents trying to overstep, if you're just forward one time, like once I said it that one time and addressed it that one time, there was no other issue in any other area. But when you let these things kind of nick away at you and passive aggressively and microaggressions, right? They come at you and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. When you do finally blow up or when you do finally have an opinion, you're going to look so fucking weird. Right. So if you let this go on for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 visits, and then on the 10th visit, you're like, yo, don't fucking do that. Or like, hey, I don't like when you, whatever. They're going to be like, whoa, where did this come from? But it's because you haven't set up that culture in that relationship yet. So you need to set up, everyone around me knows Ricky is just going to tell you how it is. Like that. They're like, oh, he ain't scared to speak up. Ricky's not scared to say it. And because I've set that culture up or that expectation with everybody, like, yeah, sure, it gets me a bad rap sometimes and people think I'm confrontational and yada, yada, yada. And I got to live with all that. But guess what? There's no surprises when I say, hey, don't fucking do that. Like no one's like, oh my God, where did that come from? They're just like, oh, all right, Ricky says not to do that, so I won't. How to deal with the fact that kids grow. Literally, I don't know. I want to die every time I realize Laguna's growing up. I get it. This kid commented, talk for 45 minutes every time. So it lasts the whole gym session. I'm sorry, bro. This one's going to be short too. But I love you for listening to me at the gym. How to deal with single parenting. I had a single mom. And here's what I'll say about single parenting briefly, because I'm not a single parent. Rachel is amazing. And I'm not a single parent. Although I try to make myself a single parent. And what I mean by please don't take that out of context. What I mean is I try to do so much, be the most involved parent I can be, that it feels like I'm doing it alone. Because I'm with a good partner, I never actually feel that way. But my advice to men is like, try to be a fucking single dad. Like that's how hard I want you working for your kids, is that you feel like a single dad. And if you're with the right person, you'll never feel that way. So that's my spiel on that. But anyway, to answer your question, how to deal with single parenting, this is what I would tell you because I had a single mom. Understand that to your child, you are going to be the greatest. Like if you really give it your all and you're a good single parent, because you could be a single parent that's like, abusive still and damaged and yada, yada, yada. Here's what I want to remind you of. And I want to give you a pat on your back. That kid will never, like I look at my mom and I'm like, you are dead ass Wonder Woman. You saved my fucking life. Thank you. You were the most influential. I give my mom Father's Day cards, Mother's Day cards. On Father's Day, I give her presents because I'm so unbelievably grateful what that woman has given for me. And so my only note to you is just know that your child will grow up. It took me maybe into my early 20s to be like, holy fuck, you laid it all down for me. Like, my mom is practically Jesus Christ. I don't say that to offend anyone, but she literally gave herself in every capacity to be the parent that I needed. So just know that your child will appreciate you. How do you navigate grief while looking after your children? Man, sometimes I just cry to myself and I look at Laguna and I just say, thank you for saving my life. How to deal with weaponized incompetence as a partner. Weaponized incompetence. Am I saying weaponized incompetence? Yeah, I'm saying that right. Man, this is like, I'm so glad that this is a new topic that everybody's talking about because it brings awareness, right? And anytime we can bring awareness to a topic, that means change is on the horizon. And so what I want you, if you don't know what weaponized incompetence is, let me put it in perspective. Has anyone ever made a joke where it's like, I've heard this joke before, way early back in the days. Like, if your kids said this to me in school, if your mom asked you to do chores or vacuum, just do such a bad fucking job that she never asked you again. Or like, oh, my mom asked me to do the dishes and I did such a bad job. And she was like, watch out. And she finished it for me. That's weaponized incompetence. Notice how the jokes or like the times people used it was with adolescence, because if you're doing that as an adult, you're a fucking loser. I'm just going to tell you straight up, you're a fucking loser. Grow the fuck up. Because what I feel from weaponized incompetence is, one, you are literally not man or woman enough, or you don't have enough self-pride to simply tell someone, I don't want to fucking do that. Right. So, hey, I need you to do the dishes. I don't want to fucking do that. You're such a fucking loser that you're going to go attempt to do it, but in a dumbass way, so that you can gain help and can manipulate the other person to doing it, which is, you're a fucking sicko and you're a loser. Sorry to attack you, but I have to keep it honest. Now, to deal with it, I would recommend that you explain the topic first. Hey, this is weaponized incompetence. Let me explain it to you. Here's a fucking PowerPoint. So, because here's the reality of these things. Here's the reality of these things. Once you call it out and you bring attention to what's going on, that shit's you're gonna nip a little bit of it in the bud. And you can see that in our culture throughout, like, genocide and racism and all that, right? Once it's called out for everybody to see, like, hey, what Hitler's doing over there is wrong, right? Once it's called out, that shit had to get nipped in the bud. But while we all sit here and pretend not to know what's going on, right? And I know I'm using a big scale with Hitler and the genocide to Jewish people, but it's like, while we pretended to turn a blind eye, we just let that shit pass. And bring it all the way down to your own fucking household. If you're not calling out that you know what weaponized incompetence is, then it's just going to continue to pass and you're going to continue to get mad. So call it out. You don't even have to call it out when they're doing it. Like, hey, what you're doing right now is fucking weaponized incompetence. Like, that shit's lame. Stop. You could just call it out, like, broad dinner, right? Like, hey, I wanted to talk to you about something I saw on social media. It's called weaponized incompetence, or wherever you read about it. I read about it in fucking Webster's dictionary. I don't give a fuck where you gathered your information from. Hey, this is what it is. I feel like this occurs in our relationship. I don't have an example right now, so, like, don't attack me. I'm just letting you know that I know what this is. And if it happens again, like, I'm going to say something. Because now you've first of all, you've probably nipped a lot of it. Because the next time your partner goes to be incompetent on purpose to get you to do something and manipulate you, they're going to be like, oh shit, that person's on to me. Is that feeling you want to give them? That person's on to me. So call that shit out. And then from there, I would just call that shit out every time it happens. And then weaponized incompetence is make them feel like a fucking loser, and they should stop, because they are a fucking loser. Fears of not being able to financially provide enough. I know. Rachel says, I feel that way. So I get you. Rachel says something that was really important to me when she first said it before Laguna was born and I was stressing about all this stuff. She said, listen, Rachel's childhood is her own childhood, but she had both parents in her life, which is awesome. She said something about one of them. She said, but said person loved me, and that's all that mattered. And I'll say this about what she said to me. It struck me. I'm like, wow, no matter what Rachel went through, because it wasn't a perfect childhood, but no matter what she went through in life, all she remembers is being loved by that person, which is really fucking cool if you think about it. So as long as you got food on the table, maybe you can't give them the Disneyland trips. Just make sure you're not taking out that stress on them, and make sure you love on them, because that's what the kids remembered. Sex life after having a baby. I mean, fuck, dude. Like literally, fuck. Like go have sex. It's awesome. But sort through those emotions. Do you feel weird that something's inside of you? Do you, as the man, do you feel like you're hurting your girl? Like you guys got to sort through those, talk about those things. And let me bring it all back to this again. Is your partner turning you on outside of sexual things, right? Like maybe they give great head and that always gets you turned on and that's great. But now that you have a kid, it's kind of funny. You'll see like what's going to turn you on is them caring for the child. So maybe give them feedback on that. Not for this pod, but can you do a pod about embarrassing parents moments, please? I got pooped on in all white and had spare clothes for baby, but not for me. And it was a long walk home. That's fucking hilarious. How to squeeze a workout in with a newborn. Get up earlier. How should I encourage my baby daddy to take initiative with our baby? Exposure. Just, hey, I'm going to go get my, like, what happens is like one person, most of the time the father in the relationship, gets used to this lifestyle where they can do what they want, right? Because they had a kid and they know that, like, but what happens in their brain is I had a kid, but kid is cared for by mom. I had a kid, but kid is cared for. So like, think about a car in their brain driving straight. This is everything they want to do driving down this road. Once they have a kid, they take a sharp left turn. But then mom takes care of kids, so I'm going to go forward again. It's like you're a fix-all, right? They have a little divergent, like, oh, fuck, can I do that? I have a kid. Can I? This is perfect. I want to go golfing. I don't golf, by the way, but I hear this is a big issue in relationships. I've never golfed. I want to golf. Fuck, I have a kid. Oh, wait, mom's got him. You see what happens there? And so what you have to do as the person wanting your baby daddy to get more involved is the same fucking thing, essentially. You want to get your hair down? Fuck, you have a kid? Well, dad's got him. What's the difference? Why do you got him any more than dad? If it's milk, pump. If you don't want to pump, give him fucking formula. But it's exposure. You have to expose. And you can't just say, hey, would you mind maybe keeping the baby while I go to the gym? What the fuck? Just be like, present the idea like it's not crazy. Because if you present the idea like it's not crazy, because it's not crazy, by the way, and they call you out and they say the idea is crazy, you got them in a fucking trap right now. So if you present the idea like, yo, I'm going to go to the gym at 7 tomorrow. I'm going to go to F45 class tomorrow morning. And you present it mad chill. And they're like, wait, what are you going to do with the baby? You got them right where you fucking want them. What do you mean? What am I going to do with the baby? I'm not going to do anything with the baby. I'm going to be at F45. What are you going to do with the baby? That's your fucking baby. Are you high? I don't know what you're going to do with the baby. Keep him alive. That's what you need to do. And proceed to go to your fucking F45 class. Or you could luck out and be like, yo, I'm going to go to F45 in the morning. I just want to give you a heads up. I'm going to be at F45 in the morning. I'm going to try to get up. I'll do it early and be respectful. Be like, yo, I'm going to get up a little earlier. Like I'll probably go at 7. Baby wakes up between 6:30 and 8:30. So just, I should be home by 8 and just keep it chill. And they might be like, oh, okay, cool. And if they're not like that, then you need a better baby daddy. How to get your life together and become a responsible adult. I just turned 26. I'm 25, bro. Don't ask me. I don't fucking know. My life is all in shambles, but I'm grateful. That's what I'll tell you. And this is a new season for me. Be grateful for every fucking thing you have. There's children dying all over the world. There's people with no food in their fridge. Be grateful and your life will just look beautiful. Dads who think their jobs are same or even harder than mothers taking care of babies. I'm guessing you're saying like a dad who goes to work and he thinks what he's doing is as hard as taking care of the baby or harder. It might be. I don't know. Maybe he's a construction worker in Phoenix. It's 115 degrees. It's hard fucking work. Here's what you have to do though, to answer your question. I didn't mean to fuck with you like that. Let me answer your question real quick. It doesn't matter if it's as hard or not because the baby is omnipresent and never leaves. You're comparing fucking, what do they say? Apples and oranges. Like, yeah, it's all like it's not. You're comparing fucking apples and dressers. You're comparing bed sheets and grass outside. Your job doesn't equate to the baby because the baby is your fucking child that is there all the time. Like a man comparing his job to a baby would be as if you compared your mother to your spouse. Like if you started saying like, oh, my mom's been stressing me out, so we can't have sex. I guess that sentence kind of works because if you have stress, you're probably not high in libido. But you see what I'm saying? It's like the only the only thing, and that's what we fucked up as a society, is that we started making jobs and caring for the child equals. They started being measured as equals, and that's what allowed men to think like, but I'm going to work. Bitch, you go to work 40 hours a week. This child is here 100% of the time. Now, the one thing that it does elicit maybe a little bit is like, hey, you were at work for 8 hours today. You were at work for 8 hours today. Obviously, you were caring for the child for 8 hours. I'm not discounting that experience, but you work 50 hours a week. So say while you're home watching the child, if child takes nap and you get to take nap, right? I'm not saying what you're doing doesn't deserve a nap. Like, I'm literally the first advocate for stay-at-home parenting. I'm home 5 days a week. I get it. Maybe there's some sort of rest time you can give your husband. And by that, like, we call it decomposure time in my house. Let me explain this before you guys think I'm a fucking misogynist. What I mean is, like, when I get home from work, I tell Rachel it's easier for me to decompress with Laguna than it is to decompress with you and Laguna. Nothing against Rachel. It's just Laguna doesn't actually talk. She just babbles. And so like it's easier for me to decompress. But Rachel needs to decompress from momming all day, right? So what we do when I get home from work is I grab Laguna or something if Rachel like needs that decompression time. And I just go in the nursery with Laguna, go outside or whatever. Because I can decompress still with seeing my baby because she makes me so happy. And I'm like, oh, yay, decompressing. And Rachel gets to walk away from momming. And then we can come back together. And then it's just about like respect, right? So like after we come back together for that hour, I might be like, hey, Rachel, I'm going to put her down tonight. Do you mind if I sit down for like 5 minutes? Because I do moving jobs, right? So it's hot as fuck outside. I need to rest. Sometimes when my work clothes that I've been sweating really bad, I'm like, yo, you mind if I just sit real quick for like 5 minutes? And that doesn't mean without the baby. It just means like, do you mind if I sit? And like maybe she wanted me to do the dishes or wipe down the counters, and Rachel never asked me to do that shit. But maybe that's what it looks like in your relationship. Just I asked for that time, like, yo, 45 minutes away from us. Now we're back together, and now I say, yo, it's 6 o'clock. I can get up and do bath time right now, but do you mind if I sit for 10 minutes? But I don't equate me going to work as equivalent to childcare time because the child is omnipresent and my job is what I do to get financial gain. I spend time with my child because I love my child, and I parent because I'm a fucking parent, and I go to work to get money. None of those things correlate for me. So I feel bad for the people that are in relationships like that, but just explain to them like that those things don't equal. But yeah. Okay, so this was Advice Column. Let me know if you guys want to do this again. I had so much fun doing this. I hope that we all have a moment of friendship again later. Woo! I love you guys.